Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. What night is it tonight? It is Monday night, and it is time for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. Before you all begin to ask, Dr. Mason is not going to be with us this evening, but he will be back on next week. Dr. Hampton is under the weather, but he sends his regards, and he will be back on next week. But we're going to go around as we always do and introduce our esteemed panel, starting with my coworker who tends to leave me and have fun in the sun, but it's kind of crazy weather everywhere right now. Doug, introduce yourself.
Hey, Nikki, I heard it's cold outside. It's that time of year. Hey, I'm a retired physician. I worked in the western suburbs for 30 years. And after I retired, I worked with the congressman in his office in Washington, D.C. It was really an amazing and eye-opening experience. And so it's a pleasure and a treat and an honor to be here. I'm going to try and answer your questions as best I can.
Outstanding, and thank you so much to the one who's known on these streets as Dr. 100. That's Dr. Maya Green. Dr. Green, why don't you introduce yourself?
It is called Nikki and 100. I remember either 1 or 2 years ago when Dr. Graham said we was going to have an invitation to his house in Florida when it got cold. I'm still waiting 100, but I'm glad while I'm waiting, I'm glad to connect with community. I'm glad to learn from community. I'm glad to live in community. So thank you, Congressman. Thank you, Nikki, for putting this together.
All right. I want to say hey to our special guest that's here with us on this evening from the Lawndale Voice News, the Lawndale newspaper. That's our very own Isaac Lewis. Isaac? And you're muted, Isaac. We can't hear you.
Well, hello, everybody. Isaac Lewis, publisher, North Lawndale Community News. Also, I am a 47-year vegan vegetarian. So I'm a health advocate, even though I still consider myself a novice, but expert in practice.
All right. Want to say hey to Sandell Scott, who's here with us. Hey, Sandell, how are you? Audrey Jaycox is here, and she says, good evening to everyone. Well, to the man who makes this possible for us each and every Monday night, to the one who teaches us that true wealth is our health. That's our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, Congressman Danny K. Davis. Congressman?
Well, let me thank everybody. It's getting close to Christmas time, and we were just chatting a few minutes ago that it's hard to find a reason not to enjoy the Christmas season. I mean, you have to really look. I mean, things are going well. The weather isn't too bad. Individuals got some of the things that they hope to have for Christmas. But what they really need to have more than anything else is hope. And that's what Christmas is really all about. To me, is the idea that we hope the quality of life is going to be better in the next year and the year to come than it has been at any time before. We're going to be happier. We're going to be healthier. We're going to have a greater understanding. I remember when I was a kid, we used to say all it takes to make me happy is 2 little boys to call me Pappy. One I would name Biscuit, and the other one I would name Gravy. And of course, we were talking about eating as much as we could eat of the things that we really liked. But I was reading the newspapers earlier today, and in the USA Today, we've had a lot of health news. There's a great article in there that gives 7 reasons why health care costs more in the United States of America than it does in any other places throughout the world. that we pay more for our health care. And economics is such a big part of living, such a big part. Oh, and we see that we've got Dr. James Miller back. We are so delighted, Dr. Miller, that you are back. We know that you've had a little bit of a health issue yourself. And it looks like no matter what you do and no matter who you are, you're subject to have these health issues.
Absolutely.
Nancy Pelosi went out of the country. Luxembourg, it had to have hip replacement while she was there. And so it really means that you can't run away or you can't get away
That's right.
from health issues, health challenges, and health needs. So I want to, as we begin, wish everybody a wonderful holiday season. And I always say I'm not going to get carried away, but things keep going on. My wife called me a few minutes ago. She is actually in Springfield, Illinois, voting. She is a member of the Electoral College. And so people who don't know much about that, the Electoral College is the group who actually vote for the president to be the president. But you have to vote the way your state voted. You can't just go and vote. So each state has a number of electors. And Vera is one of the electors for the state of Illinois. And so they give them a dinner and let them have a nice meal. And Secretary of State greets them and all that kind of stuff. And generally, whoever is the Speaker of the House of Illinois and the President of the Senate and all these people, they wine and dine them while they're there voting. But the process goes on. I mean, I think that's what is so important. Democracy says that there are certain processes. And if you don't know anything about those processes, it's pretty much the same as not knowing that if you go out in the wintertime and it's cold and you ain't got on adequate clothing, you're doing yourself a disservice. When it's cold, you adjust to the weather. You put on warm coats and gloves. My mama used to make sure that we didn't go outside with something on your head in the wintertime. Boy, put your hat on or put your cap on. Adjusting. So we are adjusting to everything. Look forward to a great discussion. Thank you again, Nicole Harvey, for setting this up and putting us together. And we thank everybody for being a part of it.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Miller, introduce yourself to everyone here.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I am Dr. James Miller. I am a retired internist. I retired in 2019 from practicing clinical medicine. But I'm still working to heal our community, and there's so much work to continue to be done that's going to be done. It will continue to go on even beyond my time, but I'm trying to do what I can during my time so that that hopefully things will be better than they have been, or that there be some improvement or some things that will help to lead and guide the future generation. So that's it for me.
Outstanding. Well, Audrey Jaycock says thank you, and same to you, Congressman Davis. So I think she was saying thank you to the wishes that you were given in reference to the holiday season. Well, today our question is the why. Why is there a sugar addiction? Or are we addicted to sugar? Or does our bodies become addicted to sugar? Well, our guest tonight, who says he's a novice, wants to ask our panel of highly professional physicians about sugar addiction. And of course, we want our viewers to tag in. Hey, Sister Bonnie. Sister Bonnie is here and she says, good evening to everyone. So, sugar, of course, we know that our bodies can only really process 1 small tablespoon of sugar. Nevertheless, we put 3 in our coffee. Why don't you talk about that, Isaac? And Dr. Maya and Dr. Miller and Dr. Graham will pick it up. You're muted, Isaac.
I will say tonight is the first time that I found out that statistic about 1 tablespoon. So if the doctors could elaborate on that, 1 tablespoon is all that our bodies can digest or healthily. Can you comment on that a little bit? That 1 tablespoon measurement. Nikki first told me about that.
Well, why Dr. Green is trying to get ready, because I think she's going to get ready to answer your question.
Well, while she's
Dr. Diane Body is here, and she says, good evening to everyone who is here. So go ahead, Isaac. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say in 2016, my organization, Strategic Human Services, partnered with the American Heart Association. That was during the times when they were taxing sugary drinks in Chicago, where the county was, and that caused a whole lot of controversy. I was just looking at a poster. It's not a very good one that I had from them, but it says sugary drinks are the #1 source of added sugar in our diet. And I think one of their purposes was to reduce the consumption of sugary drinks with the addition of that cost. And what it also caused a lot of people just to go outside the county to purchase some of their sugary drinks, and it caused some political upheavals also. So that quote about a tablespoon of sugar for our bodies, can someone comment on that?
All right. Can you all hear me now? Is it coming off? Yeah.
You do.
You're going in and out.
I don't know why it's doing that. I apologize.
Okay,
and you all are going to see my cousin come by in a second. He's, first of all, give my cousin Issa a hand. He is bringing back laptops from a program we do for the youth called the 530 Scholars Program. And he's just got through educating our youth, and he's bringing it back to plug them up for tomorrow for the youth. All right, so that's when he's in the background. But as we do that, the recommended daily intake for a while has been 6 tablespoons for women, I believe, and 9 tablespoons for men. And so if you kind of look at that, what happens if you have too much sugar? Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
What happens if you have too much sugar is after that, the body can only process so much sugar, right? So it just starts to store it. It just starts to store it. And once you start storing sugar, it essentially can throw off your body chemistry. But once you start storing sugar, it'll store as much as it can. It stores it in fat, it stores it in muscle, different places. But sugar also then begins to land after it doesn't store it, after it's in the liver, after those type of things, and after our pancreas can't release enough to get rid of it and process it. it starts sitting on our organs because it's floating around in the blood, just like the sugar when I was younger. And my brother would make iced tea and I would make iced tea. I would take that whole square container and just hold it over the water, right, and let it dissolve. My brother, it just was like almost like he knew that taste, or he had that one teaspoon idea. He just put a little bit, and you couldn't taste it. But when I would make it, it would be so much that sugar then sits on your nerves, it sits on your muscles, your organs, it sits everywhere. And when it sits on your nerves, it makes the nerve dysfunctional because the nerves operate on electric currents, right? And now you got this sitting here like dun 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 dun. And if the nerve isn't active, it's like lights in an abandoned house. That electricity sits unchecked long enough, it starts to go out. The nerve is dysfunctional, right? And doesn't work. And that's why if you have things with sugar imbalance long term, like diabetes, the nerves don't work. But it also sits on the nerves in your eye that causes problems in your eye. It sits on your muscles in your heart. It causes problems in your heart. It sits on your kidneys. So when you hear people that have a sugar deficiency imbalance that we call diabetes, because the pancreas that's supposed to be processing sugar doesn't work, it ends up causing kidney failure. That's why you see diabetes, kidney failure, diabetes, eye failure, and then amputations, mostly because you're not feeling when you're stepping on things. Two things, you're not feeling it, but also I've been seeing the consistency in because of the vascular, the blood vessels, because sugar is sitting on your red blood cells too. They don't heal as fast. And then, so that's why you have kidney failure, the eye stuff, the heart trouble, possible amputation, all those things put together is what happens when you have a sugar imbalance. So what I've learned, and certainly I would not call myself like yourself or Dr. Hampton a guru, is that actually it's 6 teaspoons for women, 9 for men a day.
Wow.
Well, let me ask one of the physicians. I have this great desire to drink grape juice. I mean, I just like grape juice. I know that I should not drink grape juice. But every once in a while, I might take a little sip.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get rid of, if I can, this desire to drink some grape juice? I just like grape juice. I know I shouldn't drink it because I know I'm a type 2 diabetic and I know it has a bunch of sugar in it. And I be fighting with myself not to drink any grape juice. And I have one person who spends a lot of time with me, who drives sometime for me and stuff like that, who likes grape juice too. And he will often get a bottle of grape juice. And while he's enjoying his grape juice, I'm sitting here wanting to take a hit of grape juice. But not doing it. How do I work on that?
So one of the lessons we had earlier about
Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead.
was things like that are going to make your sugar go up really, really quickly. It's hard for the body to handle. But if you have vegetables first, then some kind of animal protein, your body's better able to have the sugar. So one strategy is hold off on the grape juice until you've had the vegetables and the proteins. But another strategy is to be prepared if that person offers you the grape juice, you've got something else that you can drink in its place.
And I know that people, when I was a kid, my mother would cook about 10 or 12 different cakes, and she would cook 8 or 10 pies, every kind of cake, every kind of pie, and just having it around sometimes would be enticement. Of course, we didn't have much of a sugar problem at that point. If we did, we didn't know it. And so we could, but with all the different things that people are going to have, if you have a little bit of potato pie, you have a little bit of chocolate cake, you have a little bit of caramel cake, you have Mary Jones, who is, a great cook for up and down cake, and you got crossways cake, and you got all these different things. If you just do a little bit, you end up with a whole bunch of sugar if
And
you tasted some of it. So
yeah.
how do we prevent that? How do we fight against that?
So it takes about 21 days to change your taste buds. And it's kind of like what we see. So just ripping the Band-Aid off, what we're talking about is the fact that there's a real thing called sugar addiction, and for a lot of people, you called it actually that, a hit, and sugar addiction is real because there's a chemical in your brain. It's called dopamine. And it's the same chemical that's released when other people take other things. Now, there are other things that are not addictive substances that release dopamine, like running, looking, actually just staring in your pet's eyes 2 minutes. There's other things that release dopamine, right? That are not what we call addiction, but sugar addiction, sugar releases dopamine in the brain. And that's one of the reasons why our body, our nerves say, hey, give me, and when the brain wants more dopamine, it'll give you a taste, or it tell your tongue to say, ask for more sugar. Okay? Because the thing that's asking for more sugar on your tongue are actual nerves that want to process that dopamine. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, right? A lot of times the best way to curb that is I've had people read the back of the container, knowing that, okay, we said 6 teaspoons for women, 9 for men. The average American consumes about 17 teaspoons, a day, and children consume 3 times the limit of what they're supposed to, the recommended limit of what they're supposed to. So kind of being aware from that, reading it, and reading the back of the labels and saying, hey, this has this, and just developing somehow the discipline just to bypass those moments. Fill your stomach with other things like Dr. Graham said. And for our youth coming up, it's a lot of time, well, the actual recommendation is to limit the sugar intake so our youth never develop those cravings. They never develop that addiction, things like that. Because after it starts, as we all see, it's very hard. And I don't say this as somebody sitting back judging. I like gummy bears. Gummy bears is my, soft, chewy candy, things like that. So I say it as somebody who experiences it. So there's a real thing called sugar addiction. Sugar releases dopamine in our brain. We have to be aware of that. And just like people that are addicted to other things, intentionally develop the discipline not to get into them. And it's hard. And that's why they call it, it's not the easiest thing, right? So that's what I would say about it. I will
Are there
also say
any great cooks out there with recipes for any of these things that you can make without using sugar or using something else, and they still taste good?
I wish I would have got it out before you said. I was just about to say my sister is a vegan chef. She's a vegan chef. She is sugar is also inflammatory. So that back up about how my sister became a vegan chef. She's a survivor of brain cancer. She was one of the lucky ones. She had a pediatric cancer when she was 33, actually. And it is an ependymoma. It was resected off her brain stem that controls, whether we vomit, a lot of things, our balance, a lot of things, our breathing, a lot of things go through the brain stem. It was resected off the brain stem successfully with no recurrence. So sugar, that inflammation process is one of the things that can cause the body to be in a chronic inflammatory state. I'm not saying sugar caused the cancer. I'm saying sugar causes your body to be inflamed because your body is not meant to have that in it, right? And I asked her years later, I said, wait, because our family throws down all kinds of foods, right? So I said, why, when our family has its roots, New Orleans, Mobile, Mississippi, I mean, we cook, how did you develop the discipline to stop eating all that stuff and stop eating the sugars and things like that? And she said, Maya, everybody in our family dies in their 50s. No, have you noticed nobody makes it past? Nobody makes it to 60. And she said, and you know why? She said, because we all poisoned ourselves. The sick thing about it is that we knew it was poison when we ate it. We knew it wasn't good for us when we ate it. And that's why she became a vegan chef. And sugar is one of those things, unfortunately. And, how timely is this? Nikki, you're going to bring this up during the holidays right before people eat you know what I'm saying? Then they probably on here like, what is she talking about? Get off my screen.
I'm just trying to have people use Splenda or something else instead, or agave. I want people to go into 2025 with a new lease on life, not having to use so much of the sugar.
I know
like Kwame Brown says, this grape juice is serious. More protein curves, the sweet craving. He also brought up jelly cake. Now, Kwame, how you gonna bring up jelly cake? Sandel actually asked us if we can address some of the artificial sugars just as well.
Well, let me first say I'm one of those that use agave, but still you have to limit it because it still has sweetness and sugar in it. And as Dr. Maya was talking about the dopamine, that's just one of the pleasure experiences that people get, and we all love to feel good. And that's what people, because even when sugar, if you take a straight teaspoon of sugar, but it's not that good. It has to be in the right amounts for you to get pleasure out of it. And I heard the congressman talked about the grape juice. I was watching this film called That Sugar Film. Came out in 2014, and I encourage everybody to watch that. And it shows that when you just have the juices, you have the concentrated form without the pulp. So when Dr. Graham talked about eating fruits and vegetables and stuff, when you drink juices and stuff, it's just like taking some concentrated medicine. So you need to do a small amount of it just to get that taste out the way if you got to have it, Congressman. But, no more than 4 ounces and then, I didn't have my medicine for the day. If that's all the juice you're going to have. And you have to look at it. It is poison when you do too much. And changing our mindset is what it's going to take, because as Dr. Maya talked about, that we do these things even though we know that it's going to be harmful to us. So we have to start reprogramming how we think about things that give us instant gratification, pleasure, and know that it's an enemy. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true for our health.
Well, Dr. Maya, there's an Instagram question for you. And the question says, Dr. Maya, you mentioned that nerves in our tongue craves it and says, give me more, give me more. Well, my tongue, I believe, tell me to stop, because sometimes I can have something that's sweet and then I instantly stop and want water. Does that mean I don't crave sugar or I don't want it? Does that maybe mean that I have sugar under control? Or does it mean that I simply don't like it? Can you help me explain?
So what happens is, just like everything else, after you, so with everything addictive, and sugar is one of them, you build up what we call a tolerance, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much you need, and it increases just like other things that are addictive, right? You start off with one. I think Congressman Davis said, well, if I start off with one piece of pie, I forgot what you were saying, but I've been eating the whole thing, right? Because the tolerance over time increases. But once you get enough dopamine, so you have the nerve that's going to say, oh wait, you have the nerve that says I want the sugar, and then you're going to have the amount of dopamine that gets released. Once you get the amount of dopamine, don't tell Dr. Mason I'm drinking sparkling water, because he'd be like, nothing's water but water. But okay, once you get the amount, so okay, but it works because you see how much is it in there. Okay, say that's my level of dopamine. I need that much dopamine, right? Once it fills up to that much, my body will be like, oh, that's enough, right? 6 months later, I keep eating it. It wants to rise to this level. Once it gets that, that's when I get enough dopamine to get the feeling I want, or as we refer to it, the hit I want, and then it calms down. 2 years later, I'm needing a full bottle worth of sugar. I mean, I'm needing a lot of sugar to get up to this level of dopamine, and because my body is getting used to it and building up a tolerance. So once you reach your level that you need to release the amount of dopamine you release, that's when your body says, okay, you can stop now. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, I'll just
Anybody know?
to add
Tell
to
me
that.
again.
Yeah, I was trying to find out why they took the water fountains out of most public places where you can't get a drink of water, and you gotta buy a bottle of water if you want some water. That I mean, what was the motivation or the whatever? I mean, I always feel kind of, when I'm in the airport, I got to pay $5 to get myself a little hit of water.
And can I just say too that the water reclamation uh, department, they do a good job in Chicago, but we know like what happened in Michigan with their water, and water is not always the purest when you go to those public places. But it satisfied the lack of the popularity of bottled water, which has come into play now. But you know, even drinking faucet water is minimal, and I see that whether it's families that working class and rich, even to those that are on public aid, buying water instead of drinking it out of the faucet.
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things about the faucet water is that, like all these things that we eat and drink, a lot has to do with what we taste, and the faucet water, is there to provide certain kinds of minerals and those kinds of things which affect how it tastes, and therefore, if you start drinking water that doesn't have some of these minerals in it, doesn't have that same taste, and the other taste is more pleasant to you and more pleasing to you, you're more likely to to look at doing that. I think that's one thing. The other thing is that also people are a bit more health conscious, and a lot of times, a lot of the public water drinking fountains, we don't know how well they are maintained. We don't know exactly how much, how people are, what kind of germs people may be introducing that you're concerned about consuming. So, there's a lot of issues with that. Who's maintaining it? Who's taking care of it? Who's cleaning it up? And are they actually doing that in a way that I don't have to worry about getting some kind of an infection by my consuming the water from that fountain, as opposed to if I got it in the bottle, I'm pretty certain that what's there is there, and no one else is introducing anything to that. So I think those are reasons. And one of the other things that I wanted to add to, Dr. Meyer was saying how as we begin to build up to consume sugar, with time we build up tolerance, which means I might start off with a teaspoon being very okay with me, but after a period of time, now I need more to satisfy me, because to get the kick that I need, or the dopamine that I need, my body will now require more of water or sugar in order to do that. Now, also, I think the opposite. Once we take that away from ourselves and we go a period of time without that, I think the opposite can also be true, in this sense that if we stay away from the sweet stuff for a long period of time, and even though you may be reintroduced to it, you also find that this is too sweet, because now you sort of not been having your tongue, your taste has been reframing from it for a period of time, and now when you're introduced to it, you recognize the amount of sugar and the sweetness in it, and for someone who's refrained for a while, it becomes too much, and you have to build that back up. And so part of the whole idea with reframing for a period of time, it does help you to become to be able, and that's part of the addiction, is like with being addicted to anything else. But you have to reframe, and you have to help to fight that desire. And so that's part of the fight, in terms of overcoming some of the things that we may be addicted to, is holding ourselves for enough time that our body no longer gets so accustomed to it, and that our body don't begin to desire it less. The less we are exposed, the less desire that we have, until we start to building that back up. And I think those are important things that we, I used to drink, soda in the bottle and can. I can't stand soda now. It's just too sweet.
Right.
I haven't. And so when you stop doing it, then it doesn't, the things that you have stopped doing and gotten away from, and when you reintroduce, you feel you feel the excess, and the excess isn't as appealing to you as it was when you were drinking it, daily or 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
So I want to say hey to one of our Instagram viewers who sent a message to the congressman. The viewer says there was a April 24th, 2019 article from WBEZ congressman that talked about the city of Chicago replacing all of the park district's fountains. They found that the water fountains in the park districts had high levels of lead in them, and that their plan was to shut down, renovate, and renew over 1,200 of these fountains for drinking water. They had a 5-year plan. Well, Congressman, of course, it isn't. We are now approaching 2025, and this still hasn't been corrected. And the president has gave lots of money to the park districts to repair a lot of these things, and they're not done. Just wanted to share that with you and to let you know that you guys invested money in a good plan, but are they working on this plan? Also, I used to think that bottled water was really just a way to make money, because where are they bottling this water? Isn't it just the same water that we drink? I think Chicago's tap water really kind of tastes pretty good. I've been to other cities and the water just doesn't taste the same. I do know that you make sure that our federal entity of water, the water reclamation, make sure that our water is clean. And I want to thank you. Want to say hey to Linda Johnson, who's here. She says, good evening to everyone. Gwen Jones is here, and she says, wow, I never thought about that before. And Jerome is here, and he says, what is this? Gwen also says, how do we hold them accountable at the park districts? Well, okay, that's something that we maybe got to look at that question too. Isaac,
Yeah.
I know you had something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to say we've had introductions into our soda drinks, like when the replacement of regular sugar or cane sugar or other things became replaced with high fructose corn syrup. And that is a more dangerous form of sugar, but it was cheap. And soda companies all switched to it so that they can make more money. And it also had a higher addiction rate. Can someone elaborate on that a little bit more? One of the doctors?
Well, I think what all of it really means, that whatever it is that we want to happen, we have to be willing to pay for. I mean, I remember when I was in the Chicago City Council, I got an ordinance passed, myself and a fellow named Joe Cotlarks. We got the only policy issue passed that year, and it was to limit or determine the amount of lead that could be included in gasoline sold in the city of Chicago. And of course, the Illinois Gasoline Dealers Association said that I was the most dangerous person in the city of Chicago because it was going to run all of the gasoline dealers out of Chicago. And people were going to go to other places to purchase their gasoline. And it really just sort of means that you cannot expect the society of which you are a part to do what you want it to do unless you're trying to help get it done. And that democracy is a participatory kind of living. And if you're not participating in trying to make these things happen that you think ought to happen, then it means that you're simply relying upon, are you willing to accept whatever it is that somebody else does? And you just go along with it and hope that they're doing what you want to get done. And in many instances, they're not.
That's right.
They're not going to.
No.
And that's the way it works.
I was going to say, I do know when Flint, Michigan had that water problem and a lot of people were getting sick, it brought a huge focus on to drinking water and the health of the drinking water.
But look what it did for me and us and those who got involved. Reverend Steve Nelson and myself and some more folks sent 2 truckloads, 18-wheeler truckloads. Of course, Reverend Nelson died after that, but we went over to his church, loaded the trucks, sent the water up, and it was just a wonderful experience. We weren't able to help that much or do that much. Of course, I guess it worked out for one of the people who worked for me because Gerard Moore ended up marrying his daughter. But so he got a good
Got a
wife
benefit.
out of it. But we did that.
Yeah.
We actually did it. We didn't just. Reverend Paul Jakes also helped with us, and we collected this water and sent it up. And I think the preacher that we worked with up there died not long ago, and Paul went to his funeral. There are a lot of things that people can do if they do them, but if they don't do them, they just never get done.
Yeah. I remember, my father used to drink plenty of water, uh, and me being a kid, and my brothers and sisters, we always were looking for some Kool-Aid or something sugary, but he always drank water. I'm even having, difficulties. I have to put my mindset on it to drink water. That can cause you to have to drink less sugary drinks if you get your taste buds accustomed to the good taste of water. And I drink spring water because it has a different taste than the purified water. But
But
that's
can we put in the curriculum for our children when they're growing up that when we serve them stuff, we serve them water so that they get accustomed to drinking water
correct.
rather than giving them Kool-Aid or pop? I always say that knowing something is one thing, but doing something is another thing. And so just knowing that's information, but education is doing something about what you know
Yeah.
and teaching population groups. I admit that when I see the level of obesity in the community where I live and work and do whatever else that I do, and I see individuals knowing that they have allowed their weight and so forth to get beyond control, and it's having a negative impact on their quality of life. And some of the communities, of course, where we live and work and play have the highest rates of obesity in captivity or in society or in Chicago. There are neighborhoods we know have the highest levels of obesity, but I'm not sure that we're doing that much to try and reduce obesity. There are a few efforts and a few instances and few programs, but nothing as massive as we need to have. And so many of these individuals will die 10 or 15 years sooner than they would die if they took care or better care of their obese problem. Never does a Saturday come that I don't have 2 or 3 funerals to go to. And I know that some of these individuals, if they were taking better care of themselves as part of a collective, in all likelihood, they would be able to live a little bit longer And we would say quality of life might also be associated with length of life, or at least that's what we say in the United States of America.
Well, that's a real complex problem, Congressman. Sometimes the problem is that even people that know what to eat sometimes have difficulty, affording themselves or providing those things that they need. And sometimes people just even you can take perfectly healthy food and prepare it in a way that becomes unhealthy.
Botch
It
it up.
becomes yeah. So it's and so some things that we do because of we learn how to do it from somebody else who maybe in a different time when people were more active in terms of physically active in terms of walking and places they were going, might been able to tolerate a bit more in terms of the calories that they consume than a person who's very sedentary now. And so there's a whole complex group of things that are going on, and that create these problems with obesity in our community, that is very, very complex, and is very, very it's also it's being motivated and stimulated by folks who are interested in making money. So they're certainly going to push that entity that brings back more revenue. And the whole thing is the more you eat, the more they make. And so so their idea is to get you to eat a lot so that they can make a lot. And there's a whole bunch of things that we have to fight. And just even there are times I've seen people where that at the fast food restaurant, and they get upset when they tell them they got to wait 5 minutes for the French fries. We're in a hurry in this society now. We want it right now, quick, in a hurry, and sometimes you have to take time to prepare things in a way that it's most healthy for you, and have that patience to wait. That's sometimes that's very hard. So and when we look in our community, we're going to find fast food joints a lot quicker than we find places that serve healthy food.
Yeah. I want to
Absolutely.
ask
Well, give me 1 second, Isaac.
Go ahead.
Great. Tate says, I have a question, Unc. So whoever Tate's uncle is, I'm going to ask you to type your question in and ask your question. And we'll definitely read your question. We do have a few moments left. Connie Taylor is here and she says, good evening to everyone. Deborah Williams says, they say Coca-Cola can clean acid off of your battery. And they ask, what do you think it does to our body? So why did the FDA or who do they allow? Why did the FDA or who even allows it to be sold? That's a great question, Deborah. Also, Deborah says kids drinking things other than water and milk may start at home at early ages. They start filling up their cups and their bottles with juice and pop or whatever the parent is drinking at the time. Thus, this is why parenting classes are so very much needed. Well, that is correct, Deborah. I have an Instagram person that says, my sister puts pop in her baby's bottle and puts a little water in it. Like that really helps. Let's just give the baby water. Okay, Isaac, you had that question. Go right ahead.
I know you started off the show talking about the why. So my question is because this is an important topic, and I even had a health fair in partnership with the American Heart Association on it. But why did you pick sugar as this topic for tonight? What was the history of how it came back that you say, well, we're going to do sugar tonight?
So, the congressman started this conversation around Thanksgiving when he wanted to make sure that, statistically speaking, the doctors were on and they actually shared that there is a robust number of patients who come to the doctor the day after Thanksgiving, and they are ill because they have overeaten, they've oversugared, they've overdid some stuff. So the congressman actually started this conversation just making sure that we are healthy in our diet choices, making sure that we eat in moderation and do things in moderation. So I know that sugar can be an addiction, and it can even be more addictive than some of our illegal substances that are here out on the streets on today. So we just want to make sure that we stay in that same frame of mind, making sure that we're healthy. Christmas is approaching us next week. And we know that there are so many things that have sugar in it. You know, some people cook peas and put sugar over in the peas. Some people put sugar in their spaghetti to actually cut the acid of some of the tomatoes. Then, of course, you're going to have chocolate cake and caramel cake and key lime pie and pecan pie and homemade ice cream and all of those things. Then some people make cornbread and they put sugar over in the cornbread. Now, I can't leave out the sweet potatoes that may have cream and sugar over in them. So when you're fixing your plate and you put all these things on your plate, you are over sugaring because we're not doing it in moderation. And then the next day you're at the hospital, or that night you're there because you've over kind of sugared yourself. Your medication that you might be taking can't take the overload. So, our show is for preventive reasons. It's for entertainment purposes. We're not telling you don't listen to your doctor, don't take your medicine, don't do this, don't do that. What we're trying to do is enhance your growth in health activities so you can be healthier and wealthier. As I said, we're going into 2025. And as the congressman said, he wants us to do this in a better spirit. And we just want to go into it with a better spirit. I can speak from my own personal experience when it comes to soda. I am allergic to dark soda. I can't drink anything dark soda. But when I could drink it, I was a Dr. Pepper fan. I loved Dr. Pepper. It actually took me to have an allergic reaction to it, not to be able to drink it anymore. Once I stopped drinking Dr. Pepper because I was allergic, now I don't crave soda anymore. If I drink a soda, I can I'll drink a ginger ale if my stomach is kind of queasy. And usually now I drink an old bougie ginger ale from Benny's Liquors. It's real ginger ale. It's not like a ginger ale pop that has a bunch of sugar in it. It's real ginger ale to kind of calm my stomach down. But now if I drink a soda, I can only drink a half a can. I can't drink like the whole can. So if I do buy some soda, I'll buy those mini cans. And I find myself now even drinking maybe half of that, because I guess the dopamine in my brain tells me, okay, you've had a couple swallows or a couple swigs, whatever you want to call it, and you're good on it, and I don't want anymore. And I tend to drink more water. I love water. As long as my water has a ton of ice in it, a ton of ice, I'm good on the water. This is lemonade with no, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm drinking lemonade with no sugar. I tend to crave sour tasting things. So I'm okay with, I take lemon and cut it up and toss it over in the water. Either I squeeze lemon juice and I make like a really sour lemonade and I put it over in there and I just pucker myself for the rest of the night. But yeah, that's why we want to have a healthier 2025. And that comment that Deborah Williams made is just really blowing up on Instagram because everybody's commenting. Like, yes, my friends put soda in their babies' bottles and they put a little water in it. We never know how damaging this could be to the kids. One young lady says, maybe this is why we have infants that just begin to have teeth and their teeth are brown or even looking rotten before they even begin to lose or shed their teeth. So go ahead, Doug. You're nodding to that one. I think you want to take that away.
So the person asked about Coca-Cola and battery acid, it's really corrosive to your teeth. And so, especially putting that pop in that baby's bottle may make the baby happy because of the taste of the sugar. It may make them kind of excitable, but it's not healthy for their mouths, their teeth, or the rest of their development. The whole science of pop and candy and snacks has been very, very well studied by the agricultural industry. Those things are there at the supermarket and at the airport for a reason, because they know at that time of stress, you might turn to them and buy them. So my message is, pay yourself instead of them.
Absolutely. Well, my little cousin is here in my house. He's putting up a light fixture for me because I had a little light fixture issue. And he has stopped working and said, you mean I should not be putting juice in my baby's bottle? Orange juice, apple juice, lemon, or what'd you say? Orange juice, apple juice, cranberry juice. I should not be giving this to my baby. Well, he wants the doctors to answer his question.
I would check with that pediatrician because many of these juices have a lot of sugar in them. And that might be really tough on their teeth because that sugar with the chemistry in that baby's mouth is a recipe for cavities.
And he has a little tiny baby. The baby is really new. So
Yeah. And that, that is also the introduction that this baby is getting to the sugar.
Sugar addiction.
And so we talk about how you get addicted to sugar. I mean, if we weren't giving, if the baby wasn't introduced, there would be no addiction. But if you introduce him now, he's going to have a more difficult time trying to get that baby just milk or water because now the baby done got used and addicted to the sugar, and oftentimes, if they get to a certain level, they are going to reject something that's in that bottle that doesn't have that sugar that they now crave. So
this will be our last little comment for the night, but we have someone that sent a private message and said, "Oh my God, this has really been eye-opening. I do give my baby water, but sometimes I put a little sugar on the end of the nipple to calm the baby down. I never thought of it that way. This is so eye-opening. Thank you, Congressman." Well, Gwen Jones is here, and Gwen Jones says, "I add lemons to my water." Very good, Gwen. Gwen, I also saw your comment a little earlier, and I was going to give you a call tomorrow when you asked, was the Congressman going to be Christmas caroling? And yes, we will be. And I'll keep you updated so you'll know just where to grab us and come along with us. With that being said,
before you end, can I say one thing?
I'm not going to end yet. Go ahead.
One thing that hasn't been said about the power of fasting. And so that can help with your resistance to temptation and desire is to take a day of fast from sugar. And as you practice that once or twice every week, you build up your resistance to the temptation. I'm stopped there.
I think that was a great comment.
Fasting is hard for me any day.
Well,
we'll do it for some hours then, half a day.
Ray One Love says, "I love this." So thank you, Ray, and thank you for being here with us as always. Well, with that being said, just want to make a few announcements. The Congressman has his open houses coming up, and we will make sure that we keep you abreast of those dates and all those great things. He also has a few Christmas activities that we will be, holiday activities that we will be doing, and we will make sure that we keep you abreast of those just as well. So stay tuned. I know I got a number of different comments asking about our topic for next Monday. Well, that is approaching the holiday week. We're not sure. I will know by Friday if the Congressman wants us to run a rerun or if he still wants to have the live show for you to have comments, and then we'll be able to share your topics with him at that time. But we are approaching that holiday week, so just want to let you guys know. With that being said, we're going to do our Until Next Mondays. Well, Doug, what's your Until Next Monday?
So I want to let everybody know that I haven't met a chip that I didn't like. I've never met a pie I didn't like. I almost never had an ice cream flavor I didn't like. So it's been really, really hard for me to say no to this stuff because I enjoyed so much. But one thing that's helped me is to check myself out after I've had this stuff. Because if I take a whole bag of Doritos, it might be good going in, but an hour later, I don't feel so good. I'm going after that second scoop of ice cream. That first one might taste very good, but by the time I get through the second one, I'm not feeling very good. So I like to think that all of us have a little bit different chemistry and biology. So I'd say pay attention to what your body's telling you and listen to it when you finish and see whether or not this is working for you or making you feel less good than you could.
Outstanding. Well, Dr. Maya had to jump off. She's still seeing patients tonight, but she sends her Until Next Mondays. And her Until Next Monday says, well, until next Monday, be sweet. Don't eat sweets. All right, Dr. Miller, your Until Next Monday.
My Until Next Monday is this. Listen, as we approach this holiday season, let's do it with peace, love, and caution. Caution means that watch out for each other, watch out for the children, watch out for the things that are around us that may be harmful to somebody else. So this is a season that we come together to celebrate, the birth of Christ, and let us remember what the season is all about, and let us not just let us, Christ was about love and about life. So let us not do things to destroy life, but let us do things to build life up for our lives, for the lives of those that we love, and even for the life that for people that we don't necessarily have a relationship with, but just people that we know. And if we can do that, I think that the new year will be a lot better than it otherwise would be.
Outstanding. Well, Isaac Lewis, your until next Monday.
Well, my until next Monday is a couple of Bible scriptures. One, know ye not that your body is a temple of God, and know that the devil seeks to steal, kill, and destroy. And, as my father used to always say, the devil will make you feel good all the way to hell. So think about that.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, Ray, I see your question, and we are on every Monday from 7 to 8. So it's every Monday from 7 to 8. So thank you for sharing. And we're going to tell you to continue to share. Congressman Deborah Williams has a specific statement that she wants to share with you. Deborah says, for the last 5 days, I've been trying to go cold turkey from sugar. And it has been the hardest thing I have ever tried to do. No pop either. Lord help me. Okay, Deborah, Lord help me. You are right. It's not easy to do it cold turkey, but I support you, Deborah. I support you. Well, Congressman, take us home.
Well, let me just thank Deborah, but I also want to commend HSI for the wonderful event they had last week, where they honored uh, 10 individuals that they felt had made contributions to our community. I was pleased to be among that group, and so I want to thank them for acknowledging and recognizing our work. I also want to thank all of our guests who were on this evening for a wonderful, wonderful discussion. And I tell you, learning things sometimes take a lot of time. One of the poets that I remember said, "To thine own self be true," and everything, as far as I'm concerned, begins with self. Everything begins. If we say somebody is not doing enough, then I'm not doing enough. If I say that somebody is not making as much use of themselves, then I'm not making as much use of myself. Everything, as far as I'm concerned, begins with self. I take the position that you really can't lead where you don't go, and you can't teach what you don't know. And I struggle with diet and the stuff that I eat, and that I try to stay away from. Sometimes I'm successful. A lot of times I'm not. I'm saying, and I know I'm not. And so all that I can really do is keep trying. And I think that's what information is about. It's something that hopefully we can turn into education. I'm saying information tells you what, but education is really when you do it. is really when you make use of it. And so I just want to wish everybody, maybe we'll just take Christmas off, but I really want to wish everybody the happiest of holidays that they can experience, and try and remember all the good times that holidays have meant for you. I always get carried away. I always say we're not, but we have a gigantic giveaway on Saturday that people have given to us to give away. 500 hams, and I know people shouldn't be necessarily doing that. But we've also got about 500 or so pieces of clothing, brand new, that people who need clothing, they can drive by. Coats and walk suits, toys for children. If you know people whose children are not going to have any toys, they can come by our place beginning at 10 o'clock on Saturday, and we'll be giving away all of that stuff, and feel good about doing it. We always do our Christmas caroling on Christmas Eve. This year we are doing shelters. That is, shelters for men and shelters for women. And I want to thank JJ, just a fella in the community, Jerome Jones, who just brought us about 50 brand new jackets, coats that we take to men and women in shelters and those kind of places. And so if anybody know any people who have need of those things, the singing, well, we do the best we can. We don't we don't advertise that the Christmas carols are going to be that great, but at least we try, Silent Night and all that. So please join us. We have open house also on the 23rd, and welcome people to stop by and have a drink of mistletoe. Well, whatever you drink, but some water, But in case people just want to drink, we'll have some of that too. So have a wonderful, wonderful night. And may the good Lord bless and keep you all. And hopefully you have the most wonderful Christmas you've ever had during your lifetime. Thank you.
Good night.
All right.